Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you.
Meeting to order. Shall we do roll call?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. District 1, Councilman Rios.
Present.
District 2, Councilman Pastor.
Present.
District 3, Councilman Leatham is absent. District 4, Vice Mayor Stapleton.
Here.
District 5, Councilman Gonzalez.
Here.
District 6, Councilman Shipley is absent. Mayor Gamaros.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Shelley. Can you read this communication?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Father, thank you for your many blessings, and thank you, Father, for this Christmas time of year. We pray that you bless families with health, love, and peace. We also pray that you bless this meeting and all who are attending. May decisions made this evening benefit our community and help strengthen our progress as we move forward to provide a better place to live. Thank you for our city council and staff. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with summary of current events.
I just want to say thank you to city staff and entities around the region that participated in two major things that happened over the weekend, including the light parade. It was wonderful. And I just wanted to say, thank you and Merry Christmas to everyone. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, I want to echo that. I know the event, I took my granddaughter to go from the Mesa Valley area, and they were spending time up there with me, and they had an absolutely great time at the train people in all the events that took place. It was really a well orchestrated event, and then coupled with the light parade after that. So everybody that had anything to do with it, I know it took a lot of people to get that together. I believe it was the Chamber of Commerce that put the, no, was it the city that put the downtown? Okay. It's because I saw an ad on social media that said, Chamber of Commerce, so I just assumed it was that. But, you know, again, one of the vet tax groups doing a great job. So, congratulations, it was well orchestrated. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say, I want to really contribute that with what Mariano and Freddie have mentioned.
Thank you. Mike?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, I didn't get to light the tree this year, first time in 3 years, I think. So I think you took over. So thank you, Mayor. First Friday, I didn't get to attend that either, but I heard it was a huge success, and they had the snow machine down at Keno and other activities. And everybody had a good time, so I'm glad that, and I'm sorry I didn't attend that. I did attend the light parade, and I had to say hats off to everybody that participated in that. I know last year there was a huge lull in all the parade and the floats and what have you. And this year I had my kids, my grandkids, and everybody up here for that. And they commented on how nice it was this year. The flow was perfect. So thank you guys who, again, in charge of that. And then I did take my grandkids to the readathon at the depot, and what an event! You know, free books, free everything. So they had a blast. Even free ear testing. My granddaughter had a hard time hearing, and they were able to take her in that little motorhome there and check her hearing. So again, thank you for everybody that was involved in that. And yeah.
Thank you, Mike. As we come to year end, I just want to take the time to thank our staff and this council for their hard work, and this past year. Wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and also to our residents, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and safe holidays. I don't know if we're having a second meeting this month, so I think that's been canceled, so this will be our last meeting of 2023.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
That's all I have, Paul.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you very much. No, it's busy times. We had Festival of Lights the prior Saturday, first Friday, this past Saturday, and then Light Parade. Everybody's busy keeping the holiday spirit going and the events going, and they were all well attended, and especially the Light Parade. A lot of people, a lot of cars, a lot of vendors, a lot of floats. That was really fun to see so many people enjoying Christmas downtown Broad. And then the only other thing is again we are so appreciative of all our staff, and council is appreciative in the fact that we will be closed during for normal operation between Christmas and New Year's, and so normal operations be shut down between the Monday is Christmas, and then the 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th will be closed down and allow everyone to stay home and relax, enjoy the holiday with their family and friends.
Sure.
So I speak on behalf of staff to thank you very much to council who approves that every year, and that's your special gift to our staff. So thank you.
Well deserved.
Oh yeah, it's a very well appreciated too. People enjoy that refresher. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor, members.
Thank you. So before we move on to community call, I just want to acknowledge James Mandel, the county manager here. Thank you for attending our meeting. So we'll go to call to the public, and this is a time when any citizen wishes to address or topic to the council. At that time, we cannot respond to you on a call to the public. We do ask that you limit it to 3 minutes for your comments. So I have no cards up here.
No, not
Do you have anybody online or anybody wishing to speak to council, call the public? This will be the first one. We have one at the end of the meeting also.
Nothing, no.
So we'll go to special presentations. And we go to 3A, employee recognition of 10 years of service, December 31st, 2013, for Pam Leonard, who's a human resources manager. Paul?
So I'm gonna invite Pam up. Pam, where are you? So, Pam, you get to stand over here. Thank you very much. So, I'll just start with, I don't know where to leave about Pam. She is an HR manager and just a general person that knows so much about what goes on in the city, detail orientated, and she has just really gotten us through the past 3 years, if not the 10 years. But Pam has, prior to that, you were actually a couple months as a dispatcher.
Yes.
So, working along, working along someone named James Haley. Was Haley at the same time as you?
I know the
Former council
farmer,
member?
Chief Farmer.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
I don't know
Overlap.
when he was on council.
And then you spent a stint at the school board doing that, but luckily she landed with us for the past 10 years and has moved to different assignments in city administration. But when Chris Colby left, she became HR director, HR manager, and took care of a lot of different things. And then with pandemic and with the changes in finance, she's covered so many bases. And so, like I say, she really has a deep knowledge of how things are done and how things should be done and the change agents. And so Pam, just, always ready to help, always ready to pitch in and attention to detail. I'll tell you, I am envious. So Pam, thank you. Thank you. Oh, we shake it or do we not discuss the thing? But no, you want to say it?
I can just say thank you. I do appreciate all that you've done, and I appreciate you letting me be here for 10 years. Thank you very much.
Here we go. Okay, and we gotta shake this on. Oh, I'm gonna say.
So item B is employee recognition of 5 years of service since November 13, 2018, for Mr. Danny Kennel.
And he set the camera back there. There you go. So Danny gets come to the hot seat here. Seems like yesterday, so they said you can never find an experienced IT person in the city of Globe, and that just is a challenge to me. And it was through a connection. I was at the fair and talking to Rotary people, and I came across Danny. He applied. Danny, now with 5 years here and 19 years as an IT professional, he was happy to move from a job in the valley to work here. And so my favorite Danny story is he said to me, it's like, if you buy me an iPad, I can broadcast this council meetings on Facebook. I'm like, with an iPad? He's like, yeah. So, and wow, he did it, We were ahead of the curve with broadcasting our meetings, being transparent because of Danny's work and his creativity and his ability to whiz bang this stuff before the pandemic. And so when meetings were being shut down and council members were Zooming, we were coming here and broadcasting, from our home. But Danny's more than just a multimedia whiz. It's hard to explain how to evaluate an IT person. The lack of excitement in Danny's department is probably the number one thing. The fact that he is there, keeping an eye on the network, keeping an eye on the mail. He gets all these bulletins that come through about risk and ransomware and all that good stuff. And I knock on wood, I don't want to say too much, but his main job is keeping us safe and keeping our networks up and running, not just City Hall, but police also. And there's many things behind, as IT people do when they are watching over us that makes it so we don't have a lot of excitement in IT, and that's an important thing. So Danny, anything you'd like to add?
just Paul talking about how we originally met, it was a good fortune on both our parts. I was commuting to the valley about an hour and 45 minutes for work every day for about 2 years, because we moved up here for my wife's job. And I was at about my wit's end. I was about to do a whole career change. There wasn't anything IT related for me to do up here. So I was ready to call it quits and just find a new path in life. And then through a chance meeting through Crystal from Rotary, we got together, interviewed. It's the exact same time the city was starting to look for its own IT guy. Just the chance that everything came together like that is the reason I'm here, and still in IT at all. It was just a good stroke of good luck for me and the city. And that sounds a little egotistical, but but that's not how I meant. But I'm glad to be here for 5 years and hopefully many more.
Just like to comment, Danny, I think that with your 5 years, you've upgraded our city as far as technology and being able to do what we do. And you played a key role in COVID, in the fire, the Telegraph fire, the flooding, being able to transmit many words out there and information. So you really another key position, just like Pam too, another key position in our city that is vital, very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Here we go. Thank you. All right, appreciate it.
Employee recognition of 5 years of service, December 10th, 2018, for Jeremy Cochran, police officer, and agent.
Mayor, Council, thank you. It's my honor to recognize Sergeant Jeremy Cochran. He came to our department 5 years ago when our image in the community was a little tarnished. One thing that he brings to the table is he's a very kind human being. I think at times he takes a little bit too much time with the community, but he makes sure that they get full service and that he does it with compassion and kindness. He was born and raised in Ohio, and he lets me know that Ohio is the real football state, not Arizona. And after he graduated high school, he went into the military where he served honorably in the Marine Corps for over 4 years. And then, although he's not a Miami Vandal, he attended NAU and is a lumberjack. So we have, blue and yellow blood running through. After he graduated from NAU, he became a detention officer with the Coconino County Sheriff's Department. And 4 or 5 months later, he was hired as a sheriff's deputy, and then he worked there 4 or 5 years, and he transferred to North Dakota. He worked for North Dakota University for about 4 years, and then he landed in Globe, and he's been an absolute asset to our department. He was in patrol for 2 years, and now he's been a supervisor. He has 17 years total in law enforcement. 2 years as a sergeant here, but he had 2 years sergeant, I think, with Coconino, with North Dakota. So, sorry. So he brings a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge to us. And you talk about Danny and his claim to fame. If you ever call his voicemail, he said this is Sergeant Jeremy Cochran, or AKA Speed Bump, because he plays rugby on the weekends, and it's not uncommon for him to come with black eyes and cuts and bruises and whatever. And I guess he gets the speed bump. I don't know. Maybe he gets run over by guys my size, but it's really an honor to have him here, and I hope he works another 5 or 10 or 15 more years with us, because he's a joy to work with. Thank you. So congratulations. would you like to say a few words? Thank you.
Next, we go to consent calendar. Matters listed on the consent calendar considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to move a public hearing item for separate consideration. Members of the council and or staff may remove any item for separate consideration. Item A, consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A. Prior discussion rule to allow action on the balance of the consent agenda. One, accounts payable, $310,878.86. Two, consideration of approval of council minutes. 2A, November 28, 2023, meeting minutes. Item B, consideration to approve a letter of support for the Tri-City Regional Sanitation District, which is seeking grant funding from the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration. And item C is consideration to approve the submission of grant number GS-24-57-05036 to the Attorney General for an amount not that will be utilized for the City of Globe Copper Field Advisory Center. Is there anybody from the public, the staff, or council wishing to move any of these items separately?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I would like to pull item B, 4B. Okay.
Any other topics to pull?
Mr. Mayor, if there are no other comments or questions, I motion to, pull item 4B for further discussion and, motion to accept the rest of the consent agenda as read.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda as read minus item B. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposing nay, any abstaining, motion passes. So item B, go ahead, Paul.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, members of council, as we know, Tri-City Sanitation is working to bring a complex sewer system into the areas that have none at this point. Tri-City Sanitation District is applying for a grant with the Economic Development representing Arizona. It's a Economic Development Administration of the U.S. Department of Commerce. This is Jeff Hayes is representative in Arizona. They are seeking additional funding. They're seeking $5 million additional funding, and based on the economic advantages that Tri-City Sanitation will bring to the region. And so in this, we have a letter that we're asking you to approve that kind of details some of the benefits that will come to Tri-Cities, to the area because of Tri-City Sanitation project. And we have a modification of the letter that was in the packet because we wanted to actually reference the amount of $5 million. And so, and so with the stipulation of the change of, and I can read you the additional language we'd like to put in there. But any questions, or would you like me to read the additional language?
I would like to.
Okay, so the additional language is the last paragraph. It says, "Thank you for considering funding Tri-City Regional Sanitation District with a grant in the amount of $5 million. This funding, combined with other funding, will provide essential services to the citizens and potential growth to this area." The additional language from what was posted in the agenda. Okay, and this is from you, Mayor. We would like to send it forward, knowing that the full council has approved this letter.
And that's the reason I would have pulled it, because if I'm signing it, but I just want to make sure the council was comfortable as read it. Done through to make sure this is more than we want in this letter.
You're gonna add that language.
Right. We have we have a draft, but we weren't able to swap it out in the agenda. And so we did not know the amount until after the agenda went out. And so we would ask for pull it and ask for a stipulation to add the reference to the $5 million, and that strengthens the letter and more accurately defines what we're approving and what we're supporting.
Another one of your notes
So no comment.
on. Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'm cool with that. I would make a motion that we accept item 4B as presented with the additional language that will be added after.
Second. Motion and second for item number 4B. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstained? Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
New business. 5A, consideration of possible approval of the city of Globe's participation in ADEQ's volatile substances mitigation direct assistance program, and to authorize the city manager to sign related program documents. And we have John
This is the packet.
and Matthew Olson is here too?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you all know, we've actually started taking on being a proactive approach as far as our infrastructure. With your support and your encouragement, we've been looking to enhance all our phases of infrastructure, expanding our water lines, renewing water lines. We've also been doing work in our wastewater plant the last few years, making adjustments there. Most recently, one of the topics that's actually hitting really, nationwide is our testing services. We do, monthly testing, semi-annual testing, and annual testing to remain compliant as far as environmental quality. So that's where this leads us. One of the main topics that's come up is PFAS testing, and that's something that's actually, like I said, being nationwide. And I know with the representatives tonight, they'll go deeper into the technical part of that. But I just kind of wanted to give you an update on what started this process. With many things coming forward, we knew that the ADQ is looking at, a long-term plan and with everything going on. So we actually opted to get our system tested preliminary before we know it's coming. We want to start doing something now to make this work. And actually, if there's anything immediate we need to do, we can start that process. In this process, we did testing on some of our well sites throughout the city. One of the well sites, which is our Pine Street well that's actually located outside here, came back with a level that was above the standard. So that initiated a conversation with ADEQ and finding out that actually this group here, actually representatives coming tonight, we're actually doing some other testing for rural water towns and helping, make adjustments there. They approached us and said, hey, you know what, we've got some outlying groups that actually have been affected as well. And this agreement might be beneficial to the city as to the residents in this area. Just knowing that on the Pine Street well, the testing was actually done in July. We received the results in November. And that's where we got that hit that it was actually above the standard. The good part of this is actually Pine Street wells are lower demand well that we utilize when peak season, usually summertime months, we may enact it into the system. It's not a well that's actually been actively running the whole time. It's actually been down. At the time we tested, it actually was not in service. So that's where we stand with this process. It's going to go a little bit more detail with this presentation, but knowing that finding out that this well has not been, and then going forward, we did a secondary, 2 weeks ago, we did a secondary test throughout all the way, from Cutter all the way to our well sites, and we're waiting those results currently. So this time I'd like to bring up Matthew Olson, and then he can give a little bit more detail as far as the PFAS testing and where we're at as far as joining in with this other areas that might be affected.
Thank you, John.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Olson. I am a PFAS project manager with ADEQ, Safe Drinking Water. Since about late Q3 2022, I have been in charge of the PFAS sampling project statewide across Arizona. It's been my goal to focus on testing small, disadvantaged public water systems that still need to meet the upcoming PFAS rule that is planned to be finalized here in December, potentially January. And so as part of that, we have gone around and tested 765 public water systems across the state. And we have been not just focused on municipalities, but again, smaller systems. So our goal is to understand how bad does PFAS affect Arizona, And again, moving forward with the hopes that we could provide future support financially to these systems that will be affected by PFAS, which we know is not a cheap problem to fix. So as we go and gather this data and we figure out where these issues of PFAS detections are across the state, we're also keeping in mind how can we best use our resources to support safe drinking water to the people of these public water systems, right? So specifically with City of Globe, we've also tested nearby systems that were also affected with per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances. And our goal with our support that we have, which Sarah's going to talk a little bit more about in detail, is to create cost-effective solutions that reduce complexity, keep things easy and simple, so not everybody needs to be a per- and polyfluoroalkyl substance professional, right? And so our goal is to figure out how to centralize treatment when we can, when that opportunity exists. Again, not make things easier for the smaller systems. I'll throw it over to Sarah so she can talk more about funding.
Mayor and Council, my name is Sarah Conrad. I'm also with ADEQ in the drinking water section, PFAS Project Manager. I'll take it from where Matthew left off. We have some funding, both state and federal funding, that we're using as direct assistance to communities to address PFAS. It is specific to PFAS, and so we are looking at the sampling data that Matthew's project has collected and prioritizing systems around the state. We've had conversations with the city staff at Globe, and they've been very proactive and immediately expressed interest in having us here tonight to tell you more about what we can offer. What we can do is a three-phased approach. So the first is we would hire a consultant to come and look at the Pine Street well situation. Also look at the data that has just been collected for the Cutter wells, see if there's any concerns there. And then look at the two mobile home parks that are in the area, August Hills Mobile Home Park and DeRose, also known as HAD Properties Mobile Home Park. See if there's any potential, any interest on the city's part as well as the mobile home park to interconnect so that the city can provide them safe drinking water. Because those two mobile home parks have PFAS. So it's an opportunity for the city to assist a small neighborhood or mobile home park within the city limits. There is no commitment on the part of the city at this point. We're simply asking for permission to assign a design engineer to look at the preliminary options report. DEQ will fund it fully. Then once we get that report back, we'll sit down with city staff as well as the owners of the two mobile home parks, see what we all think of those recommendations and if we're going to go forward. If we go forward, a DEQ would hire a design engineer to design the project and then a construction engineer to construct the project, all on our dime, including things like permitting, project management, everything. The only things that we would not cover are the ongoing operation and maintenance costs and then the ongoing sampling. But as Matthew mentioned, once the EPA PFAS regulations go into effect, there will be, it varies and it's all just proposed right now, but there will be ongoing sampling that is required that we would not be able to assist with. But that is the reason we're here tonight at the invitation of city staff to share this with you, and we hope that you're interested. It's a great opportunity. You're actually our first community that we're speaking to about this, so you guys have a chance to be real leaders in the state, as well as to assist those two mobile home parks in the area. Thank you.
Questions, comments for? Ray, go ahead.
I just would like to thank ADQ for the opportunity to help us in this venture, and more that's really impressive is ADQ has the funding to help us get through this. It's just monumental for us. I know it's not going to be a cheap task for anybody that provides water. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
The wells that are there are the samples that are high, is that fixable then with a plan in place, I guess?
So the wells you're referring to are the City of Globe
Yeah,
wells?
fine.
So, yeah. Okay. So I believe the well that was affected, absolutely, we can work with that. And as far as I remember, they said it is not a main supplier of water. So we said is we can shut that down. And then source water from different well locations that can meet all the demand requirements without needing to put in a PFAS treatment solution. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Mayor and council, just to indicate preliminary, normally we fire up the Pine Street well, like I mentioned, in our high demand time, and right now the season slows down, obviously, for winter time. And since it's already been down, staff would recommend, we're just gonna keep that well offline until we get the secondary results. And it is, my concern earlier was we have pressure zones, we have our Bonita booster, and thankfully our Bonita booster is up and running and actively keeping the pressures that need to be, so we would not be, affected immediate so we don't have any issue making sure that we're actually offline until we get the secondary results.
John, are those other two wells, the mobile home parks, they have private wells in, is that?
Yes.
Is there each individual, is there two wells there, or is there just one for each?
So there's one well at one site and two wells at the second site.
So that's something that would work into probably this design, you say that we might provide them with water also in order to satisfy their needs also.
Correct.
Right, I have a follow-up, if I may. Is part of your design work, actually looking at treatment processes, for possibly advanced use, in the future? Or is it just mitigating the problem or the issue and securing the water resources within this area?
Under our funding, we absolutely can use the funding for treatment.
Oh, okay. And that would be, well, I guess.
The challenge with treatment is cost and size, and putting in a PFAS treatment system is usually not cheap, comes with additional overhead, plus O&M costs are much higher. Higher operator training is required, so we keep those things in mind. Mitigation efforts like interconnects, things like that tend to be more cost effective for multiple parties.
So yeah, in your situation, because your Cutter well field is currently coming back clean of PFAS, we're not looking at treatment at this time. If in the second set of samples there was any hits there, then we would consider a treatment option. But right now, it looks like with just the Pine Street well being an issue, that the simplest and most cost-effective solution would just be to take it offline.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, so tonight we're asking just for permission to support the program, go forward, and there may be some non-financial paperwork with them lining up contractors that we need to sign off on and things like that. This will be, if we go forward, we get the results. Once we have the results of the investigation they're going to do, we'll come back to council and have the final decision as to how we move forward and what council approves or doesn't approve in expanding our water system and taking on these properties. We'll also have discussions with the property owners.
So we don't need an approval to vote on, it's just
Let's see here. I think we had a motion in there, and so I'd like we don't need to waive the rule. So the motion is to direct staff and to participate in the ADEQ's PFAS mitigation direct assistance program and to authorize city manager to sign related documents. So I think we would ask council to motion second and possibly approve.
So in that case, I'd like to make a motion to approve this paragraph as written. And
Second.
motion second for approval of item 5A. Is there any further discussion? I do have one question, since moving forward with Pine Street, I know to the city, but our community, the other two in the county, do we move forward with all three together? Is that working with the county or is that working with those individual mobile home parks?
Mayor. We will work separately with those two mobile home parks. So tonight you're just talking about what the city will do with the city and authorizing the city to have discussions with those mobile home parks.
So,
Thank you.
so,
There is no way you.
no, because this will be back.
Okay.
Yeah. So this will not be the last time, but Mr. Mayor, members of council, we wanted to thank our friends from the state coming up here. We're really ahead of the curve on this. I don't know if you'd already talked about that, but you know, this is something that council's been concerned about. I know because water is so important to us, and when we got the offer to work on these projects, any chance we have to make our community even safer is something we're welcome to. So we appreciate the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you again.
Thank you.
With action item 6A, we have A is consideration to approve Series 6 liquor license application for Silver Tap, formerly Party's Book Club, located at 230 North Broad Street, Globe, Arizona. Are you doing this one, Paul?
Oh no, I think Dana is going to. Did we?
Not the liquor license.
On the liquor license, yes. We're just bringing the liquor license back for final consideration. We didn't waive the rule on it 2 times, and that allows time for somebody who may have heard about what's going on there to learn about it and come back and know it'll be on the second agenda. But so we don't have anything called the public or any people requesting to speak to the item. Make a quick second check and.
This was in last week,
Right.
meeting.
Yeah, nothing in the mail, in the email, and nothing on the phone. So just it's council's pleasure on possible approval. But I do believe the applicants are here. If you have any questions,
We brought this up.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve the Series 6 liquor license application for Silver Tap, formerly known as Farley's Pub, located at 230 North Broad Street, Globe, Arizona.
Second. Motion and second for approval of item 6A. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstained? Motion passed. Item B is consideration to approve the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission's recommendation of approval for a request for a new exterior paint scheme and front elevation updates for the Silver Tap Building, formerly Party's Pub, located at 230 North Broad Street. You said Dana's presenting?
I believe Dana and Linda's here to answer any questions also, but we're checking to see if we have. There we go. Dana's on the line. There he is.
Thank you very much, Mayor, council members. Last Wednesday morning at the HPAC meeting, the Preservation Advisory Commission convened to review and do Silver Tap proposed elevation. And at that meeting, they approved it unanimously, and that's in your packet before you with images of their proposal and so forth. I just let you know that we did receive one letter of opposition from a individual that expressed displeasure with removing the glass block that's on that elevation. Outside of that, though, like I mentioned, the HVAC did have that information at their discussion, and they did recommend you approve with the conditions listed in your staff report. We have to respond to any questions or take you through the plans and any information you write back.
Any questions for Dana?
And if you have no questions, do you want to speak?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Might as well, we're up here, right? So we're so excited to see the Silver Tap 928 move forward, and the changes that are made are just incredible and extremely visible. We love what's happening there and in the downtown. can't wait to see what else Don and Jess bring to the downtown and the building. So thank you for your consideration tonight.
And this is a paint scheme and a reconstruction of the front end.
Correct, good facade change.
Yeah, but actually, may I add the back as well, I noticed, because I'm your neighbor. And I noticed a huge change in the back, so I wanna congratulate you guys for doing it, it looks really, really, really good. So thank you, appreciate it.
And that's very visible from the highway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's so,
Yeah.
it looks beautiful, clean, sharp,
Mhm.
beautiful.
Thank you.
No, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the HPAC's recommendation of approval for a request for a new exterior paint scheme and front elevation upgrade to the Silvertech building, formerly Brothers Pub, located at 239 Broad Street.
Second?
Motion and second for item 6B. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item C is Canal Creek Bridge, financial update and request to approve a budget transfer of $165,893 from account number 12-80-52201 CIP, Canal Creek in the road tax fund to 12-80-52200 capital outlay construction to set aside for a possible match for the replacement for project affirm the budgeted value in the road excise tax for use on the Canal Creek Bridge, $1,715,751, and approved budget transfer of $250,000 from account number 11-80-53002 Perf Capital Project Reserve to account number 11-80-52001 CIP Canal Creek prior to administrative approval of Meridian contract payment for the work completed to date for up to $900,000.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and I'm going to invite Tina to the podium. But Mr. Mayor, members of council, Tina Allen is here, our budget manager, who wrote that agenda language, and
Try to make it a little longer.
so. But Mr. Mayor, members of council, when we last we've spoken about the Meridian project, or the Canal Creek Bridge, also known as Connie's Bridge, being constructed by Meridian. They're the general contractor, but we've talked about this many times before. Last time that we presented to you on the funding was November of 2022, when you adopted the 5.4 or 5.7, I'm trying to remember, contract for the bridge construction. There was a lag in the progress on the bridge due to making sure everything was proper, and everything's proper moving forward. We're getting very close to either February to April completion, and their payments are coming forward, and some expenses that have to be made. And I thought it would be important to give council an update on where the money is coming from. It's been assembled through a number of line items, and Tina alerted me that it would be nice to move around some money while we're talking about this to get all the money ducks in a row. And she will explain all of that technical side. But so she'll explain that we do have the funding. Where the funding's coming from is a little different from when we started, but it's all good news. And then ask for permission to make the adjustments as in the agenda. So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Tina.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thanks for having me here again. I love talking about money ducks, so we'll get our money ducks in a row. I do have a couple of things. You have the memo that Pat wrote in November of 2022, so I'll refer to that a couple times, and then you have a couple pages that I put together. And I just kind of want to walk you through the history of the funding for the Canal Creek Bridge and show you where we're at, how we got to that point at the beginning of fiscal year 24, July this year, and then where we're at now and what we're recommending for the conclusion of the project. So you have that one page that starts with Canal Creek Connie's Bridge. Originally, this project started in fiscal year 20 with two grants, one from a direct state appropriation for $2,810,000, and a second IGA with ADOT for the Hill Street corridor. So that's really how this got started with that one was $1,169,400. So together, the grant that we were talking about at that time, last November, was for $3,979,400. So when Pat put the memo together in November of 22, some of that money had been spent already, right, for design, and so it's not referenced in her memo, but her memos, it says grant funds available as of November 16, 22 was $3,227,194. So the assumption in that memo is $752,206 had been spent already. So I'm gonna keep talking about the whole project value. So on this page, when I talk about, when that very first page talks about it, that full grant funding was what was available at that time. So then she put the memo together saying the rest of the money that's available, she projected at that time $1.3 million from the road excise tax and an additional $599,050 from her funds. So her memo came up to $5,173,010 back in November. So that was what she had submitted saying this is the money that's available. You were getting a contract a week later from Meridian that was for $5,488,000. So that agenda item said, look, we don't have enough funding, we're gonna have to take in some water contingency funds. So the agenda item that was brought forth in November of 22 had an additional funding source to say, look, we've got enough money to do the Meridian contract, and that $421,600 was added in. So on that first page, all those items are approved monies as of that point. And additionally, in July of this year, there was an additional grant that came from the Arizona Rural Transportation Advocacy Council for another $643,200. So when you started this fiscal year, you had by your actions said, we have a project that is going to be $6,990,016. So that's kind of one of the key things, is this is what council has approved already. So that what we care about now is what do we actually need to finish the project, and do we have enough budget authority in the budget to do it? So there's a couple asterisks next to some of those numbers, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But in the middle of that page where it says total spent through fiscal year 23 was $2,613,000. That's everything that's been spent, including some payments to Meridian, but design, vendors, the solicitation that you had to go through to get the vendors initially and things like that. So we have this, a little bit of money that's also been spent, paid to date. So if you go down to the second table, it says here's our vendors, what we paid to Meridian, what we paid to EPS Group, the Eastern Railroad Company, a little bit of vendor signage, and some engineering and inspection costs. Some of those actually are contracts, so there's contract values. So you have the Meridian contract for $5,488,000. EPS had a contract for $417,000. The other ones are just normal procurements and vendors. We have some change orders. That's the really good news. When you took that agenda item back in November of 22, there was a statement there was going to be some value engineering that was going to go on. And the expectation was that contract value would come down, and it did. So you have already approved a negative $500,000 change order to Meridian. Okay, there's another $39,000 negative change order that is going to be coming forward. I'll say approximately, because I know there's some negotiations still going on that. So I have anticipated negative change orders to that contract. So the forecast right now for the Meridian contract is that it'll be $4,948,791. So that's the best news, right? Then we have EPS Group, where that's had change orders that have increased the value. One of that is, I believe, the inspector, which is what you're going to be voting on after this agenda item, is change order number 3. But these are all included, so that column that says forecast this is what we think the whole project is going to cost when all is said and done. Eastern Railroad, that doesn't have change orders, but there's an additional $445,000 out there that's being reviewed by Luis and John, and we'll come back to you. So we're forecasting for that right now. Is no more expenditures anticipated for signage, solicitation. That's all done. We don't expect any more. And then there's a little bit more for, Richard Powers, your engineering consultant. So there's about 24,000. So that column that says forecast, that has the yellow number that says $6,581,239 roughly, that is our new anticipated entire project number. So the good news is that is $408,000 less than what we had approved had as a whole project in the beginning of the year. So that's the first good news. The project's come down from what we thought it was at the beginning of this fiscal year. And then just a note that everything paid prior to this year is at $2,613,000. So what we think we're gonna spend this year is $3.9 million roughly. The good news also is that is all in the budget. There's nothing not covered in the budget. We can move a little bit of it around. We're talking about that right now, but it's budgeted. We have the budget authority for it. So back to those asterisks at the top. There was $1 million in Pat's memo when she looked at the road tax fund. She projected $1,346,766,000. I did the budget, I only came on board in February, and I did the road tax budget. There was a bit greater fund balance. I thought it was all for the bridge. So I budgeted $1,881,000 for the bridge in the road tax fund, and it's available. The good news is that means we do not need to touch that water contingency money, because the $599,000 in HERF money, even though I had seen this memo, we had not really talked about CIP when we were doing the budget development process. We said we'd come back. So I did not have a line in the HERF funding for $599,000, even though it had been approved back in November of 22. It wasn't something I had caught in the budget. And the same thing with the water contingency. That was, I had never even seen that because that was in an agenda item back in November. I had only seen the memo. So some of those things are on me. It was just things I hadn't seen. So when it came to me looking at what do we need for this, the good news is the project came down and I budgeted more in the road tax fund. So if you go to the other side, if you have the in summary page.
Just
Go
one
ahead.
question on the 1.3 million, that isn't part of the money that we used for the 750,000 for our match for 3 million for the water project, the water grant.
No.
No, that's a different, that was
That-
water conservation, that's something different.
Right, that's the future water money that we use.
That's in the actual enterprise fund, so the securing future water is in Fund 50, which is the water fund. This is the road tax fund, the excise tax fund. So when we come back to what we're talking about now in the motion, I did have in the road tax fund budgeted $1,881,000 roughly. I'm not going to go into all the pennies for the bridge. However, I did catch back in August that you had an agenda item where there was a letter of intent for a transportation alternative program for street and sidewalk replacement, and it had a match. And whenever I see there's a match in agenda item, it kind of says, I was like, where's that going to be in the budget? I am recommending that you pull that $165,000 out of the bridge money, put it in a different construction line. That's what the agenda item says, so you have that match set aside. So that's part of kind of my watchdogging of the budget. There might be a match. I want to see it in the budget somewhere when that project comes along. That still leaves the $1,715,752 available for the bridge. So that one part of the agenda item is just a little bit of cleanup for a match that I want to see taken out of the line item for bridge money and set aside for that match. So coming down to the second piece of the agenda item, we had, when the agenda item came last November, there was $599,000 out of her. I think we only need $250,000 of that because the project has come down. So that's the second piece of your agenda item, is actually creating in our budget this year a $250,000 line item for the bridge with the appropriate accounting code. So the money is already in her. It is in construction project reserve, but we're going to put it in its own line item so we have it identified for the bridge. So what you get on that revised Pinal Creek Bridge is you still have the $2,810,000 From the state appropriation, you have the $1,169,400 Hill Street Corridor grant. You have the state grant that you got in July of this year for $643,200. You have a higher number of road tax dollars, $1,715,752, and then we're just taking less of that HERF money, $250,000. That gets us to a total project funding of $6,588,352, which is about 7,000 more than we had as our forecast. So we have brought the total project down, we've saved the water contingency fund, we've reduced the amount of funding we're taking from HERF, we've increased the amount of funding we're taking from the road tax fund. We think this will cover everything. If something untoward happens, we might come back for more HERF funding. Or if we do a reconciliation, we might come back for more road tax funding after we get through our 22 and 23 audits. But I think based on meeting with staff from Public Works, what we think is gonna happen with these contracts, this is what we think will finish the Canal Creek Bridge. That's what we're asking. Any questions?
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor. This has Jerry Barnes written all over it. He did a tremendous job working with ADOT, bartering and cajoling to get that funding in the way we needed it, shoehorned into the budget. And they asked for some consideration of time. And so I know that he worked real hard to bring all of that funding in. And I really miss him because he was the one who was able to pull all this together in terms of working with ADOT. And a couple of side jobs here too as well. So I really appreciate his work on this. So I'm pleased and surprised, Mr. Mayor, that we're gonna come in like this. I really pleased with that. I don't have any question on how we got it. Just what I'm trying to say.
Ready with it?
Yeah, so, I mean, long story short, that was, a lot of information, but this is basically just a true up for the final project.
It is.
And so, Mr. Mayor, members of council, first, Mr. Mayor, I think the conversation that we had, the question that you had is appropriate for the next item. We can have that there. But I want to thank Tina for, being able to resurrect this and sort through all this with the help of Jessica and Luis, her contacts in Public Works, and they worked with her to get her so she could, put this into a coherent, understandable exercise here. And then also a shout out to Representative David Cook, who was the person that, along with our team and Jerry, helped to get that additional $643,000 to help because we were seeing cost overruns. Remember, this bridge was supposed to be $2.81 million with $1 million for the Cottonwood or for the Hill Street paving, and with all the supply side and material costs and everything like that, it's ballooned. But we're all very happy and that we're still within budget and this bridge will be completed very close to on time and definitely within the money we have available.
Just a comment also for Tina, through this process, I'm also glad that you're looking at other, like the money, the match we need for the sidewalk program. We got so much money coming in that we're going to have to be creative on how we come up with those matches. We hate to turn these grants around because they're vital to our city, but we also need to be able to provide the matches for all of these grants that are coming through.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that we will be able to identify them. And it's similar to what we did with the previous Army Corps grants and things. So making sure we identify those clearly.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, I think you're aware we now have a grants team that everything goes through. The first question is, what is the priority of this grant? Do we have the organizational capacity to even apply for it? Then is the work to apply for it worth the benefit that we receive from that? And then do we have the match money? So we have to, in this time, it's very strange, but we have the luxury of being selective in what we apply for and making sure that it's the best bang for the buck for the city, and all that centralized to our grant team, which is keeping an eye on this and interfaces very well with the finance and our finance, both in-house finance and our finance consultants. So it's very important to keep track of all this because there's just so much going on.
And our staff for that work. I know I go into Monty's office and I see the list of grants that are there and that have been submitted. I think this is historical in the amount of funding that this city is applying for at one time. It truly is amazing. So congratulate all our staff for all their hard work.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, having the organizational capacity to accept all this and put this to, to fulfill the grants and meet the commitments and use that money. It's, it takes a lot of work on staff and they're doing the heavy lifting to make sure we capture as much money, outside money as we can.
You deserve a Snickers bar. No, it's great work. It really is. It truly is. It's just, it's inspiring. It really is, to see the projects that are going on and the projects that are, in the building blocks. We're not quite ready to see them, but, just like all of our other projects, you gotta build the foundation before you can go vertical. It's just, rolling one right after the other, so it's really inspiring. So thank you all the staff.
You guys, John, your staff and Maurice, thank you for all the work that's done. Everybody, it's just a team effort. Yeah, that's great.
With that, Mayor, if there's no consequences, I'd like to make a motion. Motion to approve budget transfer of $165,893 from account number 12-80-52201 CIP, Canal Creek Bridge, in road tax fund to account number 12-80-52200, capital outlay construction to set aside to possible match the Arizona Department of Transportation alternative program for the street sidewalk replacement project. Affirm the budget value in the road excise tax to use on the Budget Creek Bridge. I'm sorry, the Canal Creek Bridge. I'm talking budgets here. The amount of $1,715,751, and approve the budget transfer of $250,000 from account number 11-80-53002, PERF Capital Project Reserve to account number 11-80-52201, Capital Canal Creek Bridge.
Second.
Yeah, that's.
We have a motion, a second for item C6C. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstained. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Item D, consideration and possible approval of change order number 3 to contract number PS-2019-0055 with EPS Group for the Upper Canal Creek Bridge road design project in the amount of $160,000 to be funded out of account number 21-80-52201 CIP Canal Creek. Luis.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This item is closely related to what Tina was talking about. It's related to the Connors Bridge. We gave them, an update, but 2 sessions before, that we were having problems with the bridge shafts that needed to be remediated, and that took some time, to get it done correctly. So the project has been delayed, and we now have a new date for completion. But because of that, we still need to, to have our inspector in the project. And also we have used some of the post-design services for EPS. We don't think that we're gonna need the $160,000 that we're asking, but we don't wanna come back later for, another little bit. So that's why we calculated that amount. So that way we make sure that we can cover those expenses. new date probably is gonna be, as Paul was saying, February, April, around there. But now we are off the ground. We are already putting all the walls in place, center pier and abutments. And then now it's coming the falls work, and then the deck, you know, we're moving forward now. So that is why, you know, we had to come tonight and ask you for this additional funding. I understand Tina already included it in the figure that she just gave me. So it's one of, it's already there, so that's what we need to, we need to take into consideration. If we can get it approved, then we can keep moving forward.
Glad to hear that that's included in this amount. But I guess the question I had earlier is that because of the delay of the bridge being completed, it's really costing us $160,000 additional money because of the inspections. Is that the way I understand it?
Yes, yeah, it is costing, some more money, but, because the subcontractor, you know, who did the, bridge houses was basically the one that, you know, is the one that made the project. I understand that the region is gonna go after that to get, you know, the secret damages that we are gonna be charging upgrade. That is something that they're gonna have to finalize, you know, they're gonna have to come to an agreement. This is gonna be a legal battle there, but, you know, we're gonna apply those liquidated damages. If they finish it by February, all the liquidated damages is gonna be just, for Michael's. But if they go past February into March and April, then the additional time, it's gonna be on the unit. So, yeah, we're gonna work on that.
So we have the possibility of liquidating the fees, so also coming back to us in the process.
Yeah, because, you know, we keep track of the numbers, how much we're paying, and all this extra, you know, wages for the inspector, we shouldn't be paying them, you know, so we're just gonna pass it on them. So, that's what we are.
Thank you, Luis.
Luis, so this ask or this, change order is strictly for inspection services, right?
Inspection and post design services, because, like when, we have problems with, bridge houses, the contractors submitted some suggestions, some, you know, ideas. And we had to go back to the designer and have him review what they were proposing, if it was gonna work, you know, so everything had to be, you know, stamped and everything, so, yeah. It's not only the inspector, it's other services that we have to pay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if there's no other questions or comments, in the spirit of keeping this project moving forward, motion to approve change order number 3 to contract number PS 2019-0055 with EPS Group, the Upper Canal Creek Bridge Road Design Project in the amount of $160,000 to be funded out of the account number 21-80-52201 CIP Canal Creek Bridge.
Second.
Motion second for item 6D. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstained? Thank you, Luis. Item E is consideration to approve Arizona Governor's Office Highway Grant number GS-24-57-05024 for $38,749 and number GS-24-57-05026 in the amount of $19,087 for traffic safety. PJ.
Mayor and council, these are the grants that we apply for, and over the past 7 or 8 years, we've been granted from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, so that we can step up enforcement action during significant times throughout the year, 4th of July, Christmas, Labor Day, and those things, and that would be the traffic enforcement. And then with our RMS system, the track system there in the vehicles to help supplement the cost of those as the other grant.
These are no match grants, right?
No, there are no match
No
grants.
match,
correct.
Just straight across
Yeah.
the board.
Questions? Motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Governor.
I'll make a motion to approve Arizona GOHS grants, GS /24-57-05024, the amount of $38,749, and GS 24-57-5026, in the amount of $19,087.
Motion and second for approval of item 6E. Is there any further discussion? Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstained. Motion passes. Thank you, AJ.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Item F is consideration and possible approval of a memorandum of understanding, number MOU-24-0056 with the Southern Hima County Economic Development Corporation to support their acceptance of a donation parcel needed to secure a potential senior housing project partnership.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you. We were approached by the representatives of Haven. They have a vacant building, portion of their campus that they are not using, and they wanted to find out if it could be used for to benefit seniors in Globe, specifically senior housing. And we thought, well, that's a wonderful idea, and started, getting our looking around and seeing how we could put something Gorman-like together, like our affordable living spaces that we have being built. Their goal was to donate the property for that cause, and as they also wanted to see a tax benefit from that. If they're going to donate a property, they should receive that tax benefit. We could not offer that by donating to the city. That was not possible. So we reached out to our friends at EDC, our partnership there, and they, through Linda working with the members of the EDC, and Mayor, you're aware of this, they have offered to be the recipient of the donation, allowing Haven to receive the tax benefit, with the condition that the city will go forward within the next 2 years and put together some type of a partnership that we will facilitate, but not, it's something where we're going to look for funding, and we're going to look for someone who can help build the project and possibly do an RFP to get everyone together. All this could not happen by December 31st, which is the goals of Haven. So this is the first piece of the puzzle to get that property locked in. And so we have guaranteed access. So when we do put a proposal together, that we can say, okay, if you do this and this, we can do this, and the property's there. No question that the property may go away at some point. Now, EDC is happy to be the recipient of that property. This MOU is simply a agreement between the City of Globe and the EDC that says if they accept that property, that they will donate it for use by the city, or for a project sponsored by the city in senior housing. And there'll be to no cost. There are certain lines in here that are key. In the second whereas, it says in support of senior housing or other senior quality of life initiatives. That is a deed restriction placed on the property. So Haven is going to donate that, but with that deed restriction that runs with the land. And so it can't be used for anything other than senior housing or quality of life for seniors. That is the definition of our project. So that is, we have no problem with those deed restrictions at all. And then at the end of 2 years, if we haven't pulled together a project, we've also guaranteed that EDC won't be satisfied to a property that is not being utilized. Also, we will pay the cost of no cost to EDC. So the closing of getting the title and some of the requirements for the donation. We will cover those costs. Also, we'll cover maintenance of the property through a third-party vendor through that 2 years until this is put together. And then at the end of that 2 years, if we have something going, then we're good to go. If not, the line C of 2C says the city shall accept title of donated parcel from EDC. Shall accept is different than shall take. Shall take is automatic. Shall accept is if EDC says, hey, it's been 2 years, nothing's happened. We want to donate it we want the city to take possession. We have to take possession. We shall accept, but that doesn't mean they have to if the project's halfway through or something like that. There's some flexibility in there. And so this was approved this morning actually by the EDC board. And I think, Mr. Mayor, part of the board, you were on that meeting. And we were asking council to approve our half of that. But we also wanted to see if there's any questions. Also, I think we have members of the EDC board here, Mr. Menlove, county managers here also, and Mayor, you're on the board. So if you have questions, we'll be happy to respond to those questions and let you know that I think this is a worthy effort by a member of the community to bring in more housing, and we're happy that we can help.
What's the condition of the building? Is the roof intact?
Linda or James?
Is there a leak?
Oh, all right. Looks like
I know
Tony's
it
gotten short straw.
I know it hasn't been used
They-
in several years now. I'm just curious as to
Yeah.
what the condition of the building is.
Tony Manfredi, our building inspector, building official.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We did tour the facility twice, and most recently we toured with a contractor, actually with the Gorman team, to take a look at it as the viability of it as a housing project. So Tony can speak the best to the technical aspects.
Hi, Mayor, City Council members. Councilmember Pastor, I believe your question was what condition is the building in? Can you summarize that for you? Is that what you're asking?
Sure. I mean,
So,
I don't want us to get stuck with the building, but, the county got stuck on fixing the roof for a building that we're gonna share. So I just wanna make sure we're getting a pretty good product.
I understand. So, we did conduct a walkthrough of the building. And give you a definitive answer on that is hard because one, I'm not an engineer. Two, I can't see through walls and through ceilings, so I can only assume based off of some structural integrity of the building and visual aspects of it is the answer you'll get from me on this. And in short, the building has good bones. It's a good building. Foundationally, it's a strong structure. Doesn't appear that there's any structural integrity loss based off of looking at it visually. So, no structural cracks, nothing like that. However, there are some obvious roof leakage and water damage. There is some disarray in the building to include, old plumbing and electrical, by mechanical systems. So those things would need to be addressed. It could go either way. These are small prices to pay for a good building. This has good square footage, a large structure that has good bones, but it needs some TLC to bring it back in order. But in general, I believe it's a good building. It just, not to sugarcoat it, will take some investment.
So as part of this process, our staff were working to fast track an environmental report on that, phase 1. So we are able to work with the Copper Corridor Lightbuster grant to get that covered. And there is potential funding to help mitigate those environmental issues once we get that reported. And so with that, there also comes the opportunities for funding to see that through the development process. And so because because of the acquisition price, basically donation, it makes this, that's what makes this really a viable project. Because if we were going to be paying, or anyone to be paying market rate value for that property and then have to turn around and invest dollars to make it a viable housing project, there's no way that it could pencil out and for them to be able to make it a profitable venture. So the reason this is, even viable and considerable is because of that donation. And walking it with a group like Gorman, who is working right now, they're actually answering an RFP, several RFPs that were issued by Casa Grande in the last couple of months, that they are in a similar position, having acquired through various means different properties in their downtown areas. And so we actually taking a look at these RFPs so that we can not have to recreate the wheel and see what other communities are doing to bring that additional development into their communities. And again, because of the cost of the building, the donation, that makes it so much more attractive to a developer such as Gorman.
With this MOU, that doesn't commit the city to really doing anything with it except the maintenance of taxes and the closing costs. And we're just facilitating, trying to, along with the EDC, trying to encourage somebody to come and develop it. But that doesn't commit us.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we do not want to get in the business of doing development. There are many people who can do it much, that is their specialty. And so we are going to facilitate trying to find partners and investors to make this happen for the city. And we're a vehicle to that, but I don't see a scenario at all where we start, acting as a general contractor to flip a building.
Mr. Mayor. Just a general comment. There's a common assumption out there that I've noticed over the years, not just as a councilman, but there's an assumption that the city should be developing that building or that property or a downtown building. The assumption is that the city has say over all of that development. That has, in very rare cases, it's not the case of the city's responsibility. It's the private property owner's responsibility to do something with that private property. However, every now and then, vetted through our departments, we see an opportunity or it's presented to us. And then they go out and vet it, and that's what I'm saying here tonight. Nothing wrong with taking a stab at it. We're trying to lead the city to be held harmless in this development. I just wanted to point that out. We're not in charge of private property in the city. But if we see an opportunity, I know our staff will take a look at it. And I think that's a viable way to go to protect the interests of the city. But we're not property owners per se, as he just mentioned that. We're not that, we're not in the development business. But if we see an opportunity, we'll take a look at it. And it's a fallacy, an assumption I hear all the time. And I have a hard time battling it. It's just an assumption, has no merit or foundation to it. But when do we see an opportunity? I know it'll be vetted by staff. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
I think as a city also, don't we have an opportunity to obtain some grants to maybe do some upgrades to the building that would make it more attractive, like in the environmental studies that would be completed? Sure. And I don't know if there's some grants out there, some maintenance out there, I don't know.
Right, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we're always looking to find grant opportunities, but we haven't made any other concessions or commitments on anything more complex than that. Belinda, do you want to talk about grants?
I do. This is a perfect example of what brownfield redevelopment could be. Sure. And we're going through the proper process, having phase one done, and because we're part of a coalition grant, this really makes that type of funding much more accessible for this project, and especially because of the use of it. And it's exciting that the covenant the restrictions that are being placed on that does include, of course, senior housing, but it opens up that window for other opportunities for development, because it could be housing, but it could be so much more. It could be services that could be beneficial to the senior community, kind of without going down that rabbit hole too much. It's we have some ideas. If the housing doesn't take off in the way that we hope it will, but we are very sure that there is funding out there to see that move forward. And there are other options with this building. We've also had other community partners come to us wanting to be part of the redevelopment of this, because they themselves will benefit because of the housing component.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, the other thing that I wanted to clarify is we are under no illusion that this is not going to be a complex project in the way of a complete overhaul of the building. People think, oh, you can get a building and slap some paint on it and it's good to go. And this is a renovation of the scale that Hill Street's going through right now. A serious down to the bones, as Tony says, renovation, bring it back to where it's like new once it's done.
Mr. Mayor, I live over there in that neighborhood. It's a strong building. It was used as recently as, I think maybe, say I had my heart attack in 12. I think I was seeing doctors there in 12. So, I mean, it's not like it hasn't been used. It's not like it's been sitting there for 20 years, 30 years. And it's a strong old building. You gotta realize it used to be I don't know if you realize, but it used to be the county hospital. It was the county hospital for several years in New Light. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You look at Hill Street School and I can see that hospital building coming out, looking as nice as that Hill Street School's looking. So, I'm all in favor of this. I'm just curious, like to ask those questions. Keep falling on his feet. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that let me read it. Make a motion to approve MOU-240056 with the Southern Gila County Economic Development Corporation to support their acceptance of a donation parcel needed to secure a potential senior housing project partnership.
Second. Motion second for approval of item 6F. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those nay, abstain. Thank you
very much.
Somewhere we ought to plug that in.
Yes.
Item 7, any late agenda items?
No, Mr. Mayor, none. Yeah, and find none for the foreseeable future.
Second call to the public. Any
That's-
online?
Let's look here. Nothing in the email. No, Mr. Mayor.
Scheduling the meetings?
Other than the 28th is canceled.
26.
26th is canceled too. So.
26 is
That's vacation time.
Yeah. All right. Future agenda items, anybody? I would like to bring up that discussion about the delinquent
Oh, yes.
sewer and garbage bills in areas of the Arizona water.
No, I think that is, and there is a Arizona Water MOU that we're looking at also that helps us with that. So,
Wait till after the holiday.
yeah, oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. No executive session, so I call motion for adjournment. Motion made. Second. Motion second for adjournment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Have a happy holiday.